It is no secret nowadays that ChatGPT has become a very popular tool for people to ask questions and get instant answers to them. But if I have questions about the Qur'an, Sunnah, or just Islam in general, can I ask questions and get good answers from ChatGPT? Well, the short answer is a direct no. That is simply a bad idea and should certainly be avoided. It deliberately or undeliberately provides confused answers and references even to the simplest of questions. Most importantly, it is completely inconsistent and should not be used in such matters. To understand what I mean, let's look at some of the examples that I got myself. When asking it on which surah is number 5 in the Qur'an, it says it is Surah Al-Ma'idah, and that it has 120 ayat, and it is also able to quote the translation of ayah number 10. All of this is good, but when you simply ask it to quote ayah number 125, which doesn't exist, it still comes up with an ayah number 125 from Surah Al-Ma'idah, which should be impossible. And it does that consistently. It just comes up with something or an ayah from any surah. And that is of course a grave mistake. But if you think this is not such a big deal, well, if you ask, for example, to provide a synonym from the Qur'an, it will just make words up that don't even exist in the Qur'an. Like this example, asking it to give synonyms for the word land. It starts with a couple of correct answers, and then it goes completely off track, making things up as it goes. So the word watan doesn't exist in the entire Qur'an, and certainly not in Surah Yusuf. This is actually ayah 36 from Surah Yusuf, and it doesn't contain the word watan. You can apply this on all the references that are highlighted here. They are all wrong. And all of these words do not exist in the Qur'an. But here it is telling you where you can find these words in the Qur'an. So these references are completely false. I tried asking the same question again, but with a different word, this time a word in Arabic, jaza', but I got very strange answers, phrases that were never used in the Qur'an, and they were used in the answer and were given references. Like jaza'un shadid, jaza'un muhin, iqabun mu'lim, jaza'un ghalid. All of these phrases were never used in the Qur'an, and they were just given references in this answer as if they are from the Qur'an. That is, of course, a very, very bad mistake. Now, for some people, these are obviously wrong answers, but it does become a problem if it provides correct answers with just one mistake hiding in between. This is something that an average person wouldn't directly see, like in this example when asked to generate just 10 random words from the Qur'an, which should not be a difficult task really. The word al-haqiqa is actually never mentioned in the Qur'an, not like that with this meaning and not in this form. While other words were indeed mentioned, this one is not. So I'm not entirely sure how is this mistake happening or why. But for certain, I know that this should be avoided if asking anything that has to do with the Qur'an. And if you just enter a random name, just a completely made up name, and ask it to provide information about this Sahabi, it would confidently give you information about this person that doesn't exist or even saw the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Using it in Arabic is somehow even worse. It is completely confused and produces very wrong answers. Here, for example, it tells me that there is a surah in the Qur'an called Al-Jibal and that it has 52 ayat, and this is the last ayah in Surah Al-Jibal, which is somehow referred to in Surah Al-Jathiyah, ayah 52, which is also false. And then it goes on to provide some interpretation on the ayah that is also completely wrong. And the same thing happens when asked about a hadith of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. When asked if Sahih al-Bukhari only contains authentic hadith, which it certainly does, it says that it is possible that some weak or disputed hadiths might have found their way into Sahih al-Bukhari, which is completely false, of course. But upon asking it to provide an example, it just came up with something that is not even a hadith that I could find or remotely related to something. And the reference provided is also a false reference that just leads to a completely different hadith. Needless to say, that if asked about anything related to fiqh, it might provide a correct response, but some other times it would just straight up give you a wrong answer. So, what is the takeaway from all of this? Well, when you ask this machine, it might generate a seemingly correct answer. But within this answer, you might find a very bad mistake hiding among the correct pieces of information. So, if you are a learner or you don't know, it cannot be trusted, and therefore, it is not a reliable source of information or a place to get answers from. So, anything related to the Qur'an, Hadith, or basically anything that has to do with religion, you should really stay away from this tool. It could certainly be useful to summarize a text, do some spell check, or just general information, but not for things that are related to the most important thing in our lives, the Qur'an.